Really just want people to be free, because if you're not, you can't do your best work. So for me, it's as simple as that.
The saying goes, what doesn't break you will make you stronger. And that certainly seems to be the case at Robin Hood Foundation, the largest poverty nonprofit in New York City. Battle tested by catastrophes like 9/11 and Hurricane Sandy, Robin Hood would appear to have been perfectly suited to deal with these overlapping historic moments of COVID-19 and the rise of the racial justice movement. To get greater insight into how this organization responded, we sat down with Chief People Officer Stephanie Royal. This is what she had to say.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Royal. I'm the Chief People Officer at the Robin Hood Foundation.
Thank you for taking some time to join Driving Change from the Inside. So tell us where you grew up and what your family was like.
Yeah, I love to talk about my family. I grew up in the Hudson Valley in upstate New York, although I was born in Philadelphia, so I've got to claim that, and all of my extended family is still there. But growing up in the Hudson Valley in a small town called Bombville, it was in the 70s. It was a place that my parents decided to move for my father's job. He worked at IBM for the majority of his career, about 55 years. And it was idyllic, to be quite honest.
When I hear your story and I hear you say, my childhood was idyllic, it brings such a joy to my face. And I know that you working at Robin Hood and working alongside poverty. I'm just curious, as a Black leader who just does not have that in the background, how's that manifest for you?
I mean, it's something that I think about quite a bit, because the work that I do can be so depressing, right? When we think about who is experiencing poverty in this country, and in New York City in particular, they tend to be Black and brown people. That was me, my father, my mother, my brother, right? But we were not far from, people who experience poverty on a daily basis within our own family. And this is part of why I'm so committed to the work that we do at Robin Hood, because we know that education and access to good quality education is a lever for economic mobility. And Michael, I have to say that I think that so much of that lack of distance, right, has to do with policy more than the people that are, in a disadvantaged space. It's policy that I think keeps people in poverty generation after generation.
For an audience that will be intrigued by that statement, can you help us unpack that a little bit?
I do not believe that people want to be poor. I believe that people want to live full lives, use their natural skills and talents to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. There are policies within our cities, at the state level and certainly the federal level, that don't make it easy for people to to access like fundamental needs, such as quality housing that is affordable, high quality food, right? It's just like basic clean water, right? These things are not distributed equitably across all communities in this country. And so where you see inequity, where you see lack of access, somehow seems to align with under-resourced communities populated by people of color. We are trying to address those issues of people experiencing poverty through the grant making that we do, to the amazing nonprofits here in New York City and then others that we support across the country, so that direct service can be administered, so that people can access good quality food, so that they can have greater access to and quality education, so that they can get jobs and enter the sectors where jobs are abundant.
So you joined Robinhood in 2018. Give us a sense of what your role was then and what's the organization like now in terms of diversity versus when you began?
Sure. So I came to Robinhood, the executive team had to address some issues around workplace culture. I was asking a lot of questions. I wanted to dig into the immediate concerns, but then dig deeper into culture and what was it really like to work at Robinhood? What was the experience of the staff here? We could not really have meaningful conversations about DEI without really reflecting on who we are, who we were as an organization. So were we reflective in our the racial, ethnic, gender, sexual orientation, ability, like all of the cultural identifiers, were they reflected in the staff at the time? And the answer was no. So we set about on a strategy to really develop our talent internally. So we just took a comprehensive approach to how we recruited, the way that we made decisions about hiring, how we onboarded our staff, how we made decisions about advancement and promotion, so that we could kind of embody the values that we set forth. After we kind of worked on the talent side of things, then we really wanted to dig into our policies, our practices, our protocols, our procedures, right? Were all of these things equitable? We continue to dig into the different policies that are in place related to HR, related to vendor selection, anything related to our legal department. Again, we do all of that work through a lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'll say, it's a different organization now.
And have you felt the same fervor that you've felt over the last 12 months going into the momentum going into the end of the year and into the next 12?
There are people who are at different places on their journey in being able to address race, class, privilege, right? But we're all on board. And what I always say is that it is okay, to be at the beginning of that DEI journey. So I can only imagine what it must feel like to be someone entering a conversation about race, never having done it before, or feeling like they perhaps should not be in the conversation. So I feel like, based on that, we do have a responsibility. Those of us that are further along this pathway, we have a responsibility to bring those of us that are kind of not there, just help. It might seem fundamental to some, but for others, there could be an incredible awakening.
All right, so tell us about what changes you expect to see at Robinhood over the next 12 months.
This idea of partnership is so important. We want to be partners with other nonprofits, other philanthropies, government, corporate community, because we know that philanthropy cannot solve for poverty alone. Robinhood can't solve for poverty in New York City alone. So we must be very intentional about establishing relationships and establishing partnerships so that we can do this work together. I think broadly in philanthropy, and I've seen this with other organizations, they've been very out in front in intention and real decision making around addressing systemic racism and its intersection with economic mobility. We cannot have conversations about addressing poverty, solving for poverty, and leading people toward economic mobility without a context and an understanding of the intersection of racial equality and social justice.
What piece of advice would you give to someone starting out their career?
I would start by saying, first, think about the way that you show up to work. How do you want to present yourself? How do you want to be perceived by others? Some very fundamental advice that I give to folks is early is on time. On time is late. late gets left. Okay? Like, that is pretty basic. I think in a broader sense, finding your people, particularly if it's, someone just getting started in their career, walking into a place where perhaps there's some imposter syndrome. I mean, this happens to me even now, right? Where I walk into buildings and I'm like, oh my God, like I can't even believe I'm here. I know I'm supposed to be here. I found my tribe when I first came to New York City, and this was a group of Black women, a very small group of Black women that came together. We were all working at the banks, and we relied on each other just to make it week to week, month to month. To draw upon each other's good energy, but also to share experiences so that we could grow and thrive in a world that was quite foreign to all of us.
What legacy do you mean to leave behind, Stephanie?
Excellence in my work, caring, empathy, and a real commitment to service. Working on behalf of people in need is something that is embedded in who I am, and that absolutely should be part of my legacy. So whether I'm working on behalf of the team here, the staff, whether I'm working on behalf of people experiencing poverty, whether I'm working so hard, out of respect for my family and the people that came before me that provided the opportunity for me to even be here, that's the excellence that drives me. So those are the things that I hope to embody every day, hope to demonstrate to the people that are watching.
I was just reflecting on the stories you've told today and how you're actually and have been actually living that legacy in your present being, which is so amazing. You're one of these few people who are actively living the legacy that they describe. So I'm really blessed to have you as a friend. All right, so I have one last question for us. I think it's nice to hear and share our the ways that we take care of ourselves. What are 3 crucial routines that you keep?
Okay, 3 crucial routines. I am very much committed to my sleep. So I go to bed most nights between 10 and 10:30, generally pretty easily. And I like to wake up very early in the morning because my second crucial routine is exercise. And so most days I will either do resistance training or cardio or some kind of yoga or stretching, or even a walk, something to move my body. And then the third, this is a new practice, Michael, but I have committed to a period of daily reflection. For some people that might be meditation, but I can't calm my thoughts, so I'm calling it reflection, to really think about the day that is to come or the day that just passed, think about things that I'd like to accomplish, think about my loved ones, memories, and really just be in a place of gratitude.
Thank you for taking some time to join Driving Change from the Inside, where we're profiling inside change agents like yourself who are doing that work on a daily basis.
Michael, thank you so much for having me today. It is always an honor to be with you.